Hello and welcome back to Belmont Bunch. Today I'm joined by Tom Carosa, and we're going to talk about why the Islanders are destroying all our hopes and dreams.
It's all their fault. I take no responsibility.
Yeah,
In
if
my
they
own-
only listen to you.
See, when they're bad, I'm bad at my job. That's how it
Wow.
works. Everything compounds now.
That'd be really
Hi,
bad.
welcome back to the weekly recap. And this week we're talking about 3 games that didn't happen. So I guess we could just skip ahead to.
Yeah, kind of weird, right? Like, it just
Yeah.
this whole week, just we seem to fall in the standings, but I don't know why.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's weird. We didn't play a bunch, but like Washington got further ahead. That's weird. So
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start with hot and not to kind of springboard into the discussion. And you might wonder, how can we do that? And the answer is hot. Ilya Sorokin for exactly 1 game, and Varlamov for the 1 game he played. Not every single other player on the team.
I have one especially not player.
Okay, go ahead.
He's, maybe he's not like everybody's favorite. Matt Barzal. I would call him my especially not player of the week.
Okay.
And he's pretty hot, so that's actually kind of hard to do.
Yeah, he kind of staves it off with the looks.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he's fortunate there.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty hot. Oh, you meant about
oh, that got me.
Let's see.
Ooh, you got me there, Tom.
Good self-image stuff
going
on here. So the
I'm glad somebody's happy with themselves, not this week, not the Islanders.
No. Yeah, Barzal, I would agree that okay, so this will allow me to kind of address the most recent recap from last night. I heard something really interesting on the radio today, which is a sentence I never say. But I was listening. It was just on when I was going to pick up some food on my lunch break, and it was the Michael Kay show. And they talk a little bit of hockey only because they have one guy named Donald Greca who is a big hockey fan, and so like there's actually some hockey talk on a major network, so that's kind of cool. And they were talking about the booing of Francisco Lindor, who's on the Mets, and how New Yorkers are quick to boo players, even like their star players. And they talked about Rick DiPietro. Here's where the Islander angle comes in. Former Islander, first overall pick, had a few good years, and then his body kind of broke down, and so he's labeled as a bust. He got booed a lot near the end of his career, and he said that I think New Yorkers maybe think that booing motivates, like
so messed up,
or New Yorkers just like pride themselves. This is basically what Michael Kay was saying, or Donald Greca, both of them. New Yorkers pride themselves on being a tough town to play in, so they're like happy that they bully players out of the town. I actually think there's some truth to that, but how I'm going to address that is I didn't boo anybody during the game. I actually, for the first time all year, was like angry yelling at my TV and not like jokingly.
That must be a record for you. It took only a game 50 or whatever to start yelling at your TV.
Yeah, my brother put his hand on my shoulder and was like, "It's all right." It was that bad.
Wow.
But here's how this all comes back in. My screen went down.
We said this was going to be a short episode, people.
Okay, yeah. So here's basically the end of my spiel, which is the other day in the recap last night, I went really hard on them, like basically like saying that they weren't working hard and that like they looked gutless, I think I said. And I think I'm gonna walk back that specific one a little bit. That's where the booing thing came in. I feel like that's like my version of booing on in the recaps. Unless I literally started booing them, which I will if they miss the playoffs. But it might just be that they're like cooked. It might just be that there's nothing left in the tank. And if that's true, I do feel bad then, because then it's not that they're, quote unquote gutless. It's possible they're just like, they just don't have much left. It's been a weird season that I don't think we're going to know 100% of how it affected the players until, maybe
that's true.
a while. A weird year in which you only play the same 7 other teams. So I will retract the gutless part of that. It's still like discombobulated. It's not pretty hockey at all. I still think Paul Mary and Zajac have added nothing to the team at all.
I
Nothing at
actually
all.
I want to talk about that
Sure.
specifically. So
Go ahead.
yeah, just kind of bouncing off that, I was thinking about the whole trade deadline and stuff, and we were obviously in the beginning, right when that trade was made, we were both thinking, this could actually be pretty good. A lot of important kind of characteristics those players can bring,
Mhm.
but like I feel like it's just kind of exasperated. I might have said this exact thing before, so I apologize. I might have said it last week. It might have just made the problem we already had the same. Like it might have just made it worse or the same. Like where we have a decent amount of like okay players.
Mhm.
Like we need a scorer, or we need we need that touch, that finishing touch, and so we just
Yeah.
kind of added a bunch of guys that could do good but not great, and so
Yeah.
so that's what I feel like I'm seeing when I see Zajac. I'm mostly Zajac, but Paul Mary's maybe a
Mhm.
little bit better, obviously. But
I think that's probably really fair because they did bring in a couple of guys, and this is something that I touted as a strength when they did it, and a lot of people did. They got a couple of guys that like seemingly perfectly fit what they do, but you might be right in that they just like that wasn't the need. The
mhm.
need was scoring, and I think the only critique I had when they made the trade because I liked it, and I think most Islander fans did, but the only critique is that I had at the time was maybe they didn't aim high enough,
I think you said that exact thing. That's
and
interesting.
that is scaring me now because like Taylor Hall's doing pretty well.
Fantastic.
He's doing really well.
Yeah.
He scored like a really sick goal last night for Boston. Um, you know, it's still
Sorry.
it's still a good sign that Lou was like willing to do this because I think he's usually seen as very conservative, and so for him in his experience for him to go out and actually spend at the deadline and like make a fairly big acquisition um is a good sign. I think it eased a lot of fans tensions about them being afraid to like risk it, and guess what, they risked it. It's not going well, but I can't really get on Lou
I
or
have
Barry for that because, as I said in
Yeah.
the recap last night, one of the things I'll stick by in the recap as well. I stick by everything outside of the gutless thing. It was a little in the moment, and they just played so poorly. But they also, later on when you had time to think about it, you go, they might just be cooked, might be
Well, so
exhausted.
that's actually really interesting, and that I think is a good counterpoint to what I just said. Whereas, you know what? Maybe let's assume that everything works out. Maybe they're obviously most likely not going to get first place in the division. I don't
Mhm.
even know if it's possible at this point. Um, but assuming they still are fine in the playoffs, like then Zajac and Paul Mary might actually be paying dividends because then they could maybe rest some guys if need be, or if somebody gets injured,
Mhm.
right? Their whole system doesn't collapse versus going for that star player, assuming that even would have worked out in the first place.
Mhm.
So whether or not that star player gets injured, even if that star player is fine, but then a cornerstone guy gets injured, or like one of the kind of middle six or whatever.
Mhm.
So so it could end up paying off, but at the moment it's not. And so
Yeah, and by the way, I think you're right about um like this like you said, if they do still get in, which they still have in their hands, like they have
yeah,
control of their own destiny. Which is, like I think we maybe, I take it for granted, but the fact that they don't need help to get into the playoffs and if they just play well, they can get in
yeah, if they play
is, a bit of a
500
luxury.
hockey, they'll be okay, most
Yeah.
likely.
And that starts with the two Ranger games. But before that, I want to tie up the thing I was talking about earlier when you mentioned Barzal. Um, another thing I stick by in the video. Yes, offensively, his line mates are not pulling their weight, right, and that hurts his
Yeah.
offensive point value, right? But like in his defensive zone, he still has to be better, and bad line mates doesn't excuse like the goal from last night. Like he needed to secure that puck or engage in the board play.
That
Of
was the
like just
only goal of the game, right?
yeah,
Was less than 2 minutes in.
yeah.
He uh didn't secure the puck and sprung, takes it right from behind him, and
He sprung right into the slot.
yep.
I did it.
We did it, everybody. Good
we
night.
did it. But these 3 games, just to wrap it all up, were extremely distressing. No 5-on-5 goals at all. They got shut out twice, and they got 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal. So no regular 5-on-5 goals. Both of the last 2 games, they were pathetic. They had like 10 shots halfway through the game in each of them.
Oh, that was really bad.
And it would be less frustrating. Well, actually, it depends on the person, but I think it would be less frustrating if they were not if they were not. It seems like sometimes they're passing their way out of chances, and it's like, guys, you can't score. You're not talented enough a team, from a high flying offense like the Capitals, like the Penguins, the Leafs are a really good example. You're not one of those teams that can do these Harlem Globetrotter type goals. Just put it on net, get some traffic in front. But that's where the problem is without Anders Lee, nobody's willing to do that outside of Matt Martin. And, that experiment
Komarov
for
was at least
5
willing
minutes.
to do it.
Yeah, honestly, we're at the point where
I'm at the point where I was thinking Zajac should be subbed out for Komarov.
I would agree.
Again. That was at least doing something,
Yeah, I think Zajac, the only thing he brings is face-offs, and
I want to take his face off.
you gotta be able to bring something else to the table, and I think Leo had been playing a little bit better than that. He had been playing where he's creating a little bit of havoc here and there.
especially in front of the net. He got a little bit. He was doing that more, and before he got taken out, he was slowly starting to do it more and more.
Yeah, so it's who knows what the lineup's going to look like tomorrow or today when this comes out.
Yes, be out Thursday morning.
But maybe this is a good time to go into second half. Talk about the last few games.
I did just want to add one last quick thing
about
Barzal, just because we spent a little bit of time on him. If I had to guess, personality wise, I would guess that Barzal is probably, his defensive back check is probably suffering. If I had to guess, because he's probably thinking ahead, he's like, I need to pull more weight on the team. So he might be in some sense cutting corners in defense that he thinks he can get up ice quicker, so that to create a scoring chance or something like that. I talked about that either last week or the week before too, and I don't know the guy, but that's just from what I've heard about other players talking about him, they'll say he's the kind of guy that really is a hockey nerd, and I think he feels the losses I'm sure every player on the team does, but feels the losses might even take it more personally, since he is the biggest star on the team.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
he's been a little bit hot-headed the last couple games.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. And some people like that are you'd imagine any professional athlete being that competitive would be like that. So, so Barzal, don't take it personally, okay?
Yeah.
But
and I can't tell anyone to take it easy because I get super stressed. But for an athlete on the ice, I think it's not good that he's been so fiery the last few games. Yeah, and that might sound like a contradiction because they look lifeless. So you would want, but I want them to look like they're invested in scoring, not invested in getting in a street fight. And they kind of got into that in the second period of the last
Martin
game.
and Chara got into it twice, almost twice or whatever.
Yeah.
And also Tom Wilson, I cannot stand that guy. Okay. Throw him out of the league.
Well, I actually, I was a little surprised that there wasn't a penalty given on, I think Scott Mayfield kind of chopped a guy down.
It was a 5-on-3 power play against the Islanders, and then Mayfield
he was like, I'm gonna test the limits of this.
Yeah.
Let's see if we could go 5-on-2. I know that's not the rule, but maybe they'll go for it this time.
What is the rule? I don't even know what the rule is for that.
It would just be extended 5-on-3 time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. They should do 5-on-2.
That would be
awesome. Fun. It'd be so much fun.
Yeah. So let's go over the upcoming schedule to see what the Islanders can do to make sure they stay in the playoffs and maybe even help their seeding situation a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pull up the schedule. I got the schedule right here. What month is it? This is January. That's the wrong one. April. All right, so today is April 28th. So tomorrow, when this comes out, they're playing the Rangers tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna then look at the rest of the May schedule. So all right, so we got the Rangers twice, then Buffalo twice, New Jersey twice, and then Boston.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, do your analysis. What do you think?
Okay, so at first glance, they're not playing any team that's currently ahead of them, and you're like, okay, cool. Now we'll go in order of it. So we got the Rangers for 2. It's a home at home. We've been great at home this year, but the Rangers have beaten us at home in regulation, so that's something to think of. And the scary thing for me is Varley. Varley didn't dress for the last game. He was on the bench naked. No, he was not available. They said he was dinged up. So Corey Schneider was the backup. That worries me because the way that Sorokin played in the middle game of the series, where he did not play well. The team didn't play well either, but he did also give up some crucially timed bad goals. The first one and the fifth one.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, because I rewatched your recap just to double check that. And yeah, so if he didn't give up those 2 goals, then they probably wouldn't have got. They probably, the game definitely could have gone the other way.
Yeah, they didn't have a lead. But they didn't have a lead in any of the 3 games. That's frustrating. Yeah. That's in the last 2 they gave up goals within the first 3 minutes, and of course, it's not Sorokin's fault for the 3rd game. We just talked about. But he can't give up that goal. The first one. And then, the 5th one was just a backbreaker. Like, you still felt like, hey, wow, we fought back offensively. We're still kind of in this. I think it was 4-3. And he gives up a real soft one from the outside. And you're just like, all right, it's over. We're not scoring again.
Yeah.
So can't have those. And if Sorokin and if Varley misses just a game or 2, I think we're in trouble. Now these 2 Ranger games, you have to win 1. If you lose both, the Rangers are 1 point back of you. We are currently a point up on Boston, and they have a game in hand. And Boston still plays Buffalo, I think, a couple times. Now, we'll get to Buffalo when we get to Buffalo, and I'll talk about that. But these 2 Ranger games really are going to decide how clenched our buttholes are. If we win both, back to like very relaxed, unclench, back to like a relaxed, like, okay, now we can talk about seeding again rather than are we going to make it. If we lose both, we are legit. Like, I'm already in full panic mode. If we lose both of those, I'm in like somebody come.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be like more sad mode than panic mode? You're like, that's it, we blew it. Or do you think you'll still be like nervous enough because you think we can make it in?
I think I would be sad if it was any other team. I think that it's the Rangers would make me furious.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then sad.
By the way, this same exact thing happened around the same exact time last season.
Yeah.
But obviously the season paused.
Press the pandemic button.
Yeah, right. We need a pandemic to fix this. And so it's just I don't know. It could just be that the Islanders hockey is very physically demanding, and so it, like you were saying earlier, it just might just be that hard to sustain. Obviously, every team goes through like ebbs and flows throughout the season, though. So it could just be an ebb.
Yeah, and if it is like maybe if they struggle in like the first period of this upcoming Ranger game, but they're able to keep it close, kind of like the Washington game we just had, where even though we were terrible, our goalies kept us in it, and even our defense has generally still been good. We gave up. That middle game was bad. That middle game was pretty bad.
So actually,
the other 2 were good defensively.
I would 100% agree, and I would say maybe I didn't look into it deep enough. I would say the defense, defensemen weren't bad so much as the back check. The support from the forwards was not as great. That was at least my guess.
Yeah, defense is a team game. Even though they're forwards, part of their game is to get back. And the Islanders usually pride themselves on their forwards being really responsible getting back. And it doesn't really, not even that. I would say like our 4th line, which is usually like the defense stopper line. You put that out right after we score a goal. You put it out after we give up a goal so that like you can, steady the game out a little. That line is cooked. That I will say. Like, Clutterbuck, I don't know if he should be in the lineup again this year. I think
you're gonna
maybe
anger a lot of people. Saying,
I think maybe Leo should just play his spot. I think Clutterbuck used to have, and you were with me at actually one of the games where he did this. I think it was it last year or the year before? They played Vegas, and Clutterbuck just like ripped one.
I remember the game. I don't remember. I think that's still 2019.
I think it was.
It was still the 1920 season, but it was still 2019.
But I saw him do that against Vegas, and I saw him do that against Nashville in a game where we were up 3-1 and lost 8-3. That shot was like the last.
I guess the same coach.
Yeah, that shot was like the last glimpse of his offense. He just doesn't do it anymore.
You did give him the hot player of the week a few weeks ago because you were like, he might not make it again, so might as well give it to him. But I mean that just shows.
Oh, do you mean Leo or?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Clutterbuck.
Yeah, I was talking about Clutter. I don't remember giving
Clutterbuck either the hot player or the honorable mention for the hot player because I mean it's very scientific how we do it.
Oh my god! I'm gonna go back
and I think I gave it to Martin, and then you said, I'm gonna give it to Clutter because he probably won't get it again this season.
I'm gonna go back and slap myself. If that's true,
he had a good week.
If that's true, I don't care. Anyway, so sorry. Back to the schedule. So the Ranger games
gonna be a short one, folks.
So all right, I'll shorten it up now because the rest of the way is actually.
I keep on distracting you. I apologize.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. The 2 Ranger games, you just win one, and you have like a 90% chance of making the playoffs. I think MoneyPuck.com still has the Islanders at like 94% to get in. They are more optimistic than me. I would have that at like 60, because these 2 Ranger games basically are going to decide. It's going to go real hard one way or the other. If they lose both, it's like a 50-50 shot they get in. They are fortunate that the 4 games after are against bad teams, but bad teams like to play spoiler at the end of the year. Buffalo has been playing better. Definitely has been playing better. Let me see their last 10 games. I believe Buffalo is 4-5-1, which is not that bad. That is the same record that Philly has over that stretch. So you got to keep an eye on those Buffalo games. I think the Jersey games
we have over that stretch.
I think the Buffalo games are going to be way harder than the Jersey ones. That'd be my
guess.
Yeah, I think
Jersey's
so. Jersey
1-8-1. I mean, we took 2 of their players, so
Jersey lost 10 in a row before finally getting that win the other day, and of course that was against my fantasy goalie in the fantasy championship. So thank you, Jersey. I hate you. But so Jersey is playing worse, but even then, so you've got a Buffalo team that has been playing better because they're more relaxed post trade deadline where they got rid of some good players. Like now they're just kind of like playing the kids. And guess what? The kids don't care. Like they're just happy to be there. So they're playing with a lot less pressure on them.
Yeah.
Jersey, in Jersey's case, even though, so for a bit there, it looked like they were never going to score a goal again. That's how bad it was. But they blew a game. They were up 3-1 late. The game before they broke the streak. They're up 3-1 with 90 seconds left and they lost in the shootout. And then the next game, they score 6 goals. So their offense has actually started to come alive a little bit. So these 4 games against these 2 teams are going to be a little bit trickier than I think, their positioning in the standings say. And then the Boston game could be for all the marbles, which is terrifying. That could be basically a 1-game playoff in a scenario where maybe it might not be a 1-game playoff. If we've gotten the Rangers out of it by that point, that could just be for seeding, but like a big seeding game because it would determine.
Oh man, could you imagine if it comes down to that? The Rangers are tied with Boston or something like that.
They're 4 points back. Boston does have 2 games in hand, so Boston could
unlikely to happen. But
so Boston could get as high as 8 points ahead of the Rangers.
But like if that could happen, and then that Boston game decides who gets in, either us or Boston or the Rangers. If Boston
Mhm.
wins, and so Boston's gonna be probably playing really hard. But anyway, so yeah, I think. So what do you think? If we play 500 hockey at the minimum, so that would mean mathematically,
Mhm.
right? So we can win, let's say 3 out of the next 6,
Yeah.
even though there's 7 games. That would be 6 points.
So that brings us to 69.
Nice.
Nice.
That was the math I was trying to figure out.
Completely by accident. I know.
So no, it was on purpose. And so that would be 69 points. Then Boston, or could the Rangers then catch up to catch up to? They have 7 games left, also, right?
I think it really depends on how we do head to head against them, because those are 4-point games.
Yeah.
We have a game in hand on the Rangers. So that'll be interesting.
They can only gain 12 points. So they can only, if they would have to win every single game to get to 70 points.
Yeah.
So that means that if we have to win, if we win 1 game, if we win 4 games, then we're good.
Yeah. And
definitively.
And
if we beat the Rangers at one of them, then we're good. Because then that's a 4-point game, like you said.
Yeah. But I mean more a 4-point game, as in it could go us plus.
I know what you mean. I know. Yeah. I'm not that hockey dumb. I know you're not actually getting 4 points.
Here's something good to look at. I'm looking at the Rangers' remaining schedule, right?
Let me take a
look. They
look.
have 6 games. They're not easy. They're not easy at all. Now, the Rangers are playing really well. So you kind of, to an extent, you throw the records out and you just go on who's hot. But so the Islanders aren't hot, but the rivalry games. And, I think you usually just go into that set going, yeah, they'll probably split. The Rangers, though, I honestly could see the Rangers sweeping that set. A lot of it.
Say it. Don't
yeah, I know. But then the Rangers get Washington, who is obviously the Washington just kind of laid down the law in this division. And the Rangers have played Washington all right. So those will still be interesting games. But then they also get 2 at Boston. The Rangers do. It's going to be tough for the Rangers, because I'm looking at this hot run they've been on. The only good team they've played is the Islanders. And they got annihilated. That was the 6-1 Islander game.
That is true.
So they have actually, since they beat us since we beat them in overtime on Sunday the 11th, they haven't played anyone over 500 except for us.
Wait, hang on. Let me go back in their schedule.
Or sorry, not over 500. Anybody in playoff positioning outside of us.
Yeah.
Because Philly is technically over 500, but they still suck.
Wow. Bold words. So, all right. Any closing thoughts?
Basically just, I expect, the good thing about having Barry Trotz is you expect them to come out on fire for the first Ranger game, which is at the Rangers. But we've been good at MSG the last few years. So, I guess the last thought is, your good play earlier in the year has earned you the opportunity to now control your own destiny. Do not throw it away by losing the 2 Ranger games.
Yeah. All right. All right. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. For all of our wonderful hardcore fan base, we love you. Okay.
I love you.
Smash that subscribe button. Okay, and the like button too, kind of, but not as hard. All right. Thank you everybody for watching and listening. Let us know what you think.
Let me know your things. You sound like Charlie Day in.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.